Chapter 30. A freezing rain drove across Fifth Avenue as I watched the entrance to the building where Earth Tones maintained its corporate headquarters on the 43rd floor. A moment ago, from a quiet corner of a Starbucks, I had again impersonated a public official. I called the Earth Tones office, identified myself as a detective, and told Gillian Tracy's secretary that I needed to speak with Ms. Tracy regarding a criminal matter. Her secretary had not learned her lesson since our last conversation. She put me on hold before telling me that Ms. Tracy was not in her office. I told her I would stop by shortly to speak to her. She assured me that Ms. Tracy was not on the premises, and I told her that I would be coming by anyway. Now I was waiting in the freezing rain to catch Ms. Tracy as she made her escape. Sure enough, not 3 minutes after my call, she hustled out the main entrance to the building. It was a good thing it had been raining the last time I had met her. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known it was her. As it was, the headscarf and glasses made her easy to spot. She paused as she came out of the entrance and struggled to open her umbrella in the strong wind. The umbrella must have been of good construction, because even though she was inexpert at the task, it remained right side out. She moved in the direction of the rain, south down Fifth. The wind pushed her along, and she looked frequently over her shoulder. At first, I thought she was trying to spot the fictional police detective, but then I realized that she was looking for a cab, not an easy task in this weather. I pulled my cap down low, put my head down, dashed across the avenue at a break in the traffic, and fell into step behind her. When she turned again in search of a cab with its dome light on, I turned as well, looking for the same thing. She turned east on 48th Street, and I figured she was heading to Grand Central Station and Metro North, heading home, assuming home was in Putnam County, close to the infamous ashram. Through the rain ahead of her, I saw the entrance to PJ Moran's, a nice, cozy businessman's pub. It would be fairly empty at 3:30 in the afternoon, caught in a lull between martini-driven business lunches and happy hour. As good a place as any to confront Miss Tracy. I picked up my pace, and when we passed under the awning, I took her gently by the elbow. Gillian. She gave a startled yelp, pulled her arm away from my grip, and stumbled past the awning and back out into the rain. Again, I caught her elbow, this time so she wouldn't fall. She lost the angle on the umbrella, and this time the force of the wind was too much. The umbrella was pulled inside out, and the heavy rain soaked through the delicate silk around her head. She flailed the umbrella, whether to right it or to drive me away, I couldn't tell, and it struck me in the face. "Let me help," I said. I grabbed the umbrella and took her firmly by the arm, pointed the umbrella into the wind, gave it a strong shove, and forced it back right side out. Gillian tried to pull her arm out of my grasp, but I held on and led her into the shelter of the restaurant's entrance. "Jesus," I said. I rubbed my face and saw red on my fingers. One of the spines of the umbrella had drawn blood from my cheek. "Who are you? What do you want with me?" Gillian said. "We need to talk," I said. I took my hat off and shook it, and she caught a better look at my face. "You're the man from the memorial service." "Yes." "You're a cop." "No," I said. "Why are you following me?" "I just told you we need to talk." "I can't talk to you. I have to get home. I don't know you. I don't know what you want." "You need to talk to me, or you're going to be talking to the police." "I don't have anything to say to you. I don't have anything to say to the police." "I don't think that's true." "What would you know about it?" "I know your secretary got a call from a detective saying he was coming by to talk to you. Now you're running out of your office in freezing rain and you're terrified. It's pretty clear you're hiding something." "You don't know what you're doing." Her eyes were wild, unable to meet mine. I had to calm her down. "Why don't you tell me?" Let's go inside. I'll buy you a drink so you can warm up and settle down. Maybe the rain will stop and you can tell me what's going on. I don't have anything to say to you. Are you worried for your safety? Why would I be worried about my safety? Alex was killed because he found something out about Simon. I was attacked because I was looking into the same thing. Nobody's going to hurt me. Then talk to me. No. Then just listen. I'll tell you what I know, what you already know or suspect. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so afraid. I think you care. I think you care about what happened to Alex and about the truth. You wouldn't have come to his memorial service if you didn't. Her lower lip started to tremble. You were the only one from his former life that bothered to show up. That tells me something. I told you when we met that someone was going to have to speak for Alex so that he can rest. I've done everything I can do. Now I need your help. Tears flowed from her eyes, but she shook her head and tried to pull away. I tightened my grip and tried the only thing I could think of. You were his sister, his spiritual sister. He considered you, all of you, his family, and you cut him off. Then a few weeks ago, he contacted you. He told you that he had Megan's diary, and I think he told you what was in it. That's what you're all so afraid of. She continued to shake her head, but the tears had stopped. She turned back to me, and her eyes were dead. You have the diary? Yes. Have you given it to the police? It won't do any good. Not by itself. I need more. I need someone to confirm that he was having sex with her. I need you. You think this is about sex? Yes. Then you're a fool. You don't know anything about what we do, about our practice, our discipline. You knew that Simon was sleeping with Megan. He wasn't sleeping with her, as you so crudely put it. He was... She caught herself. Never mind. You wouldn't understand. You're sleeping with him too. Shut up! You're going to destroy everything. You don't understand. I understand that Megan got pregnant and killed herself. The silly little twit should have taken better precautions. Is that what you think? It was her fault? A sheltered 21-year-old girl? I have nothing to say to you, she said. He wanted your help. He knew something was wrong, very wrong with your community. He wanted to help you, to protect you, but you let him down again. Now he's dead. Don't let him down a third time, I was pleading. Help me speak for him. You have no idea what you're asking. I think I do. It's hard to give up the illusions that we believe in, but sometimes it's the only way to find justice, or at least some peace. I wonder, she said, and now the tears flowed again. The rain beat down on the awning above us as she shook her head. I need time, she said. Time to think. How can I get in touch with you? I took my wallet from my right front pocket and wrote my name and number on an old shopping list from the hardware store. She took it and read my name. I'll be in touch, Zach Brandis, she said, and I'll let you know whether or not I have anything to say. Then she walked out from under the awning, pulling her matted scarf around her head. She didn't take her umbrella. I watched until I couldn't see her anymore. Then I stepped out into the rain myself to head for home, a hot shower, and some dry clothes. I sat on my couch. Oh. I sat on my couch in my robe, sipped a cup of hot tea, and called Sarah Goldstein in Seattle. It was early evening. The rain had stopped, but the temperature was dropping, like a treacherous shell, leaving a treacherous shell of ice on the city's streets and sidewalks. Outside, people were walking with careful, stunted steps. Hello? Sarah, this is Zach Brandis calling from New York. Oh, hello. There was a brief pause. I didn't expect to hear from you again. I know, I'm sorry, but I could use some more information from you. I told you everything I know last time we spoke, and I'm not sure. I'm sorry, could you hold on a moment? Sure. She covered the phone, and I heard muffled conversation. Then she was back. I'm sorry, it's my husband. He's a little upset. I haven't slept well since I spoke to you. It still upsets me to think about that time. I'm sure it's hard to dredge up the past, but some things have come up, and I think you might be able to help me figure some of this out. I don't think I want to know about this. Please listen. I know this is difficult, and I'm sorry. You got out of that place, of that community. So did Alex, but a lot of people haven't. Something's going on, and it got Alex killed. I think you'll end up sleeping better if you help me get to the bottom of it. There was a brief pause before she replied. Go on. I found Megan's diary. There's some things in it that are pretty disturbing if I'm interpreting them correctly. You read it? Yes. Oh my God. I know. It's a terrible intrusion, but I think it has to do with Alex's death. And I think she would have wanted me to get to the bottom of that. You shouldn't have read that. It was her confession diary. Her what? Her confession diary. We would Simon would have us write out these diaries of everything we had ever done that was wrong or sinful or that we were ashamed of. Then you'd give it to him, and he would burn it in this ceremony, chanting and saying prayers and such. You'd write it in preparation for your discipleship, but sometimes it was more random than that. Some people became disciples without doing it. Others would have to do it again if they had strayed or whatever. It was a really controlling thing he had, but it could also feel really good, really cleansing when you were done with it. And that's what this journal is? It sounds like it. Megan was probably working on one when she killed herself. She was preparing for her discipleship then, so it would make sense. That's one of the things that made it so hard for Alex, that drove him away from Simon. He thought that since she was preparing for discipleship and she was so close, how could Simon have missed something that was so wrong? That's what I found then. That's why it's addressed to Simon. But how could you said Alex's death might be related to the journal? I thought you said he was killed because of this whole drug thing at his job. That's what I thought until I found the diary and read it. It was hidden pretty well at Alex's apartment. But that was written almost 8 years ago. Her suicide was almost 8 years ago. I know, but it wasn't until a few weeks before his death that Alex read the journal. Then he started contacting people from your community. It's not my community anymore. I know. That's why I hope you'll help me. She listened to the hiss of the I listened to the hiss of the telecom signals as they bounced back and forth between the satellites that hover over the flyover states. What do you need to know? Thank you, I said. It's fine. Let's just get this over with. When Alex called you, what was he looking for? What did he ask you? I'm really not comfortable talking about this. All right, I understand. You don't know me. There's no reason why you should open up to me about this stuff. Why don't I tell you what I think, and you tell me if I'm hot or cold? I won't tell anyone I've spoken to you. You don't have to confirm anything. You don't have to say anything that I can use. Just let me know if I'm wasting my time. Are you comfortable with that? No, she said. I'm not comfortable with any of this, but go ahead. Let's get it over with. Okay. I think Alex asked you if anything inappropriate happened between you and Simon sexually, or if not, he wanted to know if you knew or suspected that anything was going on sexually between Simon and any of his other disciples. Go on. Okay. I'm thinking that this sexual activity was not of a romantic nature, but might have been cloaked in some sort of spiritual practice. What makes you think Alex was asking me about that type of thing? Alex didn't contact you or any other members of the cult until after he had found out that Megan was pregnant when she died, until after he had found Megan's journal. The journal details a multitude of sins that she wanted to expiate, but makes it clear that Megan wasn't having sex with Alex or with anyone else for that matter. Then, while it doesn't explicitly state that Megan was having sex with Simon, it alludes to some kind of private instruction that she's upset about. And she feels she's failing at this instruction because feelings of lust keep intruding. Go on. She was also worried that Alex might not understand the private instruction, that he might be upset about it. I think the private instruction is sex of some kind, maybe dressed up as something else, but it still boils down to sex, certainly in the eyes of someone as unenlightened as me. I need to know if that's what was going on, and if so, is it common knowledge amongst the disciples that Simon is putting it to the women? I'm not sure how I can help you with this. I understand. I know you're not about to tell me, a perfect stranger, that you were involved in something like that. I wasn't. Okay. So is there anything you can tell me? Anything you can point me in the right, any way you can point me in the right direction? Is there anyone else you can speak to about this? I've tried to contact everyone else that Alex was in touch with before he died. You're the only one I've been able to reach. I confronted Gillian Tracy earlier today. She was scared out of her wits, and she wouldn't talk to me. She said she'd get in touch if she changed her mind. Don't count on it, Sarah said. Really? Yeah, really. Simon's little handmaiden. Whatever you said to her, you might as well have said it directly to him. Maybe, maybe not. She might be slipping a little in her loyalty. She was the only one from Alex's former life to show up at his memorial service. That's a surprise. I didn't know she had that much of a heart. She was there. Okay, so it's up to me, I guess. If I could think of anywhere else to go, I said, and then I waited. Finally, she spoke. All right, I'll tell you this, and only this. As far as I know, no one in the community was aware of Simon having sex with anyone else. That's it? That doesn't help me very much. You're not listening to what I'm telling you. You asked me why the journal itself might be dangerous, and I'm telling you, no one in the community was aware of Simon having sex with anyone else. Her words hung there for a moment, and then I understood. Got it, I said. If Simon was sleeping with the women in that community, none of them knew that he was making a practice of it. Good. You have to remember that faith can be a very delicate, very jealous thing. Got it, I said. Maybe each of the women thought that they were the only one. Good, she said. Good luck. And please don't take this the wrong way. But I sincerely hope we don't speak again. You don't want to know what happens? I asked. No, she said, and hung up. I sat and tried to figure out my next step. Clearly, I was going to have to get someone to talk, but if Sarah Goldstein was correct, that someone was not going to be Gillian Tracy. Also, again, assuming that Sarah knew what she was talking about, if Simon didn't already know that I had the journal, he would soon. I was going to have to get in touch with some of the other women in the cult somehow and let them know what was in that diary. Maybe I could get one to talk, and if so, I'd bet others would come forward on that one's heels. Before I put that plan into action, I thought I'd better sleep on it. Maybe I could come up with something better. It was only 7:30 when I got off the phone with Sarah, so I made another call. Then I got dressed and went downtown for dinner with Leo, but not before I sealed the journal into another Ziploc bag and tucked it back into the cat litter. After dinner, Leo and I caught a movie, and I didn't get home until after midnight. I had just shut the door to my apartment when the intercom buzzed. I hit the talk button. Hello? A tinny voice came back, sounding vaguely female. Zach? Sally? I asked, surprised but pleased at another late night visit. Come on up, I said and punched the buzzer. The knock came. I turned the handle, and the door hit me in the face, and I landed on my ass. Even before I saw who it was, I was pretty sure it wasn't Sally. I'm a fair to middling lover, but no one has ever been that impatient to get to me, not even during the occasional long-distance relationship. I tried to sit up, but my vision was already obscured by the blood pouring down into my eyes from a split brow. Another blow to the side of my head knocked me farther back into the room. The pain was blinding, but I still thought with remarkable clarity how embarrassing it was going to be explaining to Tim, the triage nurse, how I had managed to get my third head laceration in as many weeks. When I heard the door slam shut, it sank into my fuzzy brain that I was alone with my attacker. I was already down and injured, and maybe I'd better start taking this seriously. Whoever this guy was, he'd killed one person and he'd beaten me up once already. If he was the guy I saw fleeing Cynthia's apartment after the break-in, he was big and a lot more agile than I was. My head was spinning from the double hit as I rolled to my side and tried to get to my feet. Halfway up, I took a kick to the ribs. Something cracked, and I felt jagged splinters in my side as I sprawled onto the coffee table. I half scrambled, half fell into the narrow space between the table and the couch. It wasn't much of a hiding space, but it was the best I could do. Then the table was thrown aside, and he dropped onto my back, grabbed me by the hair on the back of my head, pulled up, and slammed my face into the floor. Another crack, and pain like glass needles being shoved up my nose into my sinuses. You couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? He said. I only moaned in response. I hoped this was just another beating to scare me off, and I resolved that this time it was going to work. These thoughts scattered when I felt smooth silk over my face, then a tightening around my neck. My chest was pulled off the floor, and every blood vessel in my face was about to burst. I was suspended, my hands unable to reach the floor, unable to take any of my weight. I tried to claw the ligature away from my neck. My fingernails scratched gouges into my own skin. Just before I blacked out, the pressure released. I fell back to the floor and sucked air into my burning lungs. Where's the journal? I heard him ask. I was in a replay of the last few moments of Alex Penworth's life. Images of him swinging from the water pipe swam into focus in my mind. I had no intention of ending up that way, so between hacking coughs, I answered, It's buried in the litter, in the cat box, in the bathroom. Got it in one, he said, and kneeled on my back so that he could maximize his leverage. He tightened the silk around my neck again and began to pull steadily. I flailed about under him as best I could, but my hands couldn't find any purchase. The only thing I could grab was the rug, and all that did was bunch up under me as I pulled on it. He leaned in close as he tightened his grip and whispered in my right ear. I couldn't make out what he said, but I'm sure it was something creepy. I spent what I knew would be the last few moments of my life thinking what a jerk I was. A jerk for being attracted to a girl like Cynthia, for wanting to impress her by getting into a cockfight with Jenkins, for caring about the death of a perfect stranger, and for being stupid enough to think that this nut was going to let me go when he got what he wanted. I felt a sharp pain in my right wrist as my arm spasmed and my scrabbling hand was thrust under the couch, the flesh torn by a loose upholstery staple. Before I could pull my hand back, It closed on something small and round and hard. I didn't know what it was, but it was all I had. He was still leaning in close, whispering. I pulled my hand out, flesh tearing again, and thrust as hard as I could, up and back over my right shoulder. Suddenly, he was still, and my hand was wet. I pushed harder with whatever it was I was holding, but it was stuck. Still, he didn't move. We stayed frozen for an eternity. Then he gave a shudder and toppled to the floor next to me. I lay there gasping for another eon or so, and then, when I had the strength, I turned my head. Simon's disciple Jason was lying by my side, a thin stream of blood trickling from the short length of 3/8 inch copper tubing that protruded from what had once been his right eye. And that is the end of chapter 30. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel by clicking the bell so you get notifications about upcoming live streams and events. And also, if you have a chance, go over to my website, MatthewArkin.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get articles that I write on the craft of writing, acting, and storytelling.